In this video, you're going to learn more about how to score in open-ended questions for O-level Pure Bio than 2 years of teaching in school, and that's a guarantee. So many of you are dying at open-ended questions, and I know this because I get so many messages about this for help. So I'm opening up all the secrets. I'm going to transform you from this sad dog who always gets bonked for failing his bio OEQs into this GigaChat buff dog over there who he not only scores full marks in OEQs, but he also says it's easy. Okay, so how on earth is this possible? Because I'm going to give you templates, formulas, so you can copy and paste and use them in your OEQs. Then it becomes effortless. So if you're not taking Sec 3 or 4 Pure Bio, then don't watch this video. It's only meant for students of this specific syllabus because the examples and the techniques I'm going to show you are also specific to the syllabus. Okay, first tell me if this is you. Right? Maybe you can understand when the teacher is teaching during class and you're like, yeah, I understand the bioprocesses, okay. But then later when they give you the worksheet or maybe they give you the homework, right? And you do the questions, then you cannot start. You don't know how to start. You can write a bit, but it's not specific, it's not enough keywords, and you're not sure, are you even answering the relevant thing? Is this what the question actually wants? So you don't know how to derive the answer because it's not taught to you. And so maybe some of you, when you do WAs, right? Small tests of a few topics, then you score poorer than you think you should. Because for those topics, you understand the content. But, maybe your understanding is 7 out of 10 for those topics. But your open-ended skills for those topics may be a 3 out of 10. So you will score poorer than expected. When you get results back, you're like, I thought I was better at these topics. So it's quite frustrating as a student, I'm sure, because you are supposed to answer the questions, and this is how the examiner marks you, right? They see your OEQs. But then the OEQ skills, like how do you actually write a good one, is barely taught to you all in school. And that's a major complaint I get from a lot of students who join our tuition. So how do you actually derive the answer? Like, how are they not teaching this? And I'm going to get my editor to play like an angry noot here, because that's how you all are feeling. Okay, so that's why I'm making this insanely long and detailed video. It's how to score full marks for open-ended questions every single time. It's a full guide. I'm opening up all the secrets. It's basically a masterclass, okay? And if you don't know who I am, I'm Keith. I'm the founder of That Bio Tutor. And over the past years, we've been teaching hundreds of students and not only helping them ace bio effortlessly in terms of the content memorizing, but also in the answering skills. Okay, so why am I doing this? Because I'm honestly quite pissed. I'm pissed for you because if I was you, I'd be frustrated. Like, why are they not teaching us these essential things?
I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put the blame on me.
With help from the worthy. Because, this is going to be a long video. It's going to be very detailed. It's going to teach you more than you will learn in 2 years of school, okay, for OEQ skills. But a lot of people won't watch this. A lot of people will just be like, I'd rather see like the next funny cat video or something. So those who are hardworking and who are committed, I believe y'all are worthy of getting the A1, getting the success. And I believe it shouldn't be withheld. I don't like the idea of gatekeeping stuff, So I've met people before where like I ask them for advice, then they gatekeep. Like, yeah, basically they don't want to tell me unless, I don't know, maybe I pay them money or something. So I could actually charge money for this masterclass, right? Because I know that, yeah, no one else is teaching it. We could do this, okay, at That Bio Tutor. And definitely at least 100 people would sign up, right? In 1 year, probably more than 100, maybe a few hundred people will sign up. So I am potentially losing out on quite a lot, but I'm pissed, and that's why I want everyone to know about this. So, and plus, I don't want to withhold knowledge from the worthy people out there. Okay, so that's why this is free, and all I ask in return is that you watch it to the end, right? You actually learn. So, for those of you who are not committed and you don't really want to improve your open-ended skills, you're like, yeah, I know what, it's okay. I just get like a B, B4, or C5. I'm happy with that for my O-levels. Then, yeah, don't watch this video. Okay, this is not for you. This is for those self-motivated students who they intrinsically, they want to improve. And they know that they're not at their full potential. And these answering skills and techniques are meant to get you at your full potential. So here's what we'll cover in this masterclass. It's basically everything you should have been taught at school, but you aren't getting taught. Okay, the patterns of highly successful answers. So I have witnessed other students and also my own answers, and I've tried to see, okay, what is the common patterns? Okay, so I want you to copy those patterns so that you can also write very successful answers. How to interpret the command words. It's quite a basic thing, but teachers don't really go into detail of what each command word means and the different scenarios. So I'm going to show you all how to do that. What are the types of OEQs and how to overcome each type, like definition OEQs, like the rehearsable ones, and the application questions. How to overcome each type. What's the training or study method for each type? And then application questions, there's a formula. Yeah, did you know that we have a formula for doing application questions? Like, they are different, yes, but the method to get to the answer is often the same formula, and that's what I'm going to teach you. Okay, then data response questions. I know this is another fear that a lot of people have. Like, how are we supposed to score in them? I don't know how to describe properly, what's the words to use, how to quote data properly.
All right, we're done here. No more questions.
So I'm going to give you templates for doing that. Okay, then the last one, which is also equally important, is how to not overwrite and how not to waste too much time in the exams. Because even if your skills and your content is super good, right, but you've not enough time to finish, how is the examiner going to see that? They're just going to think, oh, you don't know how to do, is it? Like, that's why all leave blank? Yeah. So overwriting is another huge problem that we will tackle. Okay, in the first place, why should you listen to me? Okay, I'm going to show you some screenshots from my JC bio exams. Okay, so this is the actual exam under the time pressure of the exam and the anxiety, okay? So, and you can see here that on these examples, teacher themselves, they are like, wow. Quite impressed by the answer. So they say, excellent, then they put 4 marks. Then I see this one, smiley face, max. Because this mark allocation is 3, right? But I had 4 points that I hit in their marking scheme. So that's why they say max, because already max out the 3 marks. Cannot give you 4 marks, Yeah, then this very long kind of answers where it's often quite difficult, but look, all the keywords were there, so they gave me 4 marks. Okay, and then sure, another one here, the teacher was quite happy, so they say, oh, perfect answer. Yeah, so I'm showing you this not to brag, but to show you that it's possible. It's possible to reach this kind of level, and it's actually much easier than we think. Okay, so it's possible and it's easy. I want you to believe that it's possible. And this is actually JC answers, which is more complicated than pure bio, O levels. I wanted to show you my O level, my pure bio, secondary school one. But I already gave away those files, so I don't have, I only have this. Okay, and besides that, I've personally coached hundreds of students, and overall here are our stats as a center. 25% will score A1, 2 in 3 students will score A1 or A2, and 94% plus of students will score at least a B3. And as mentioned before, answering skills is the #1 issue that students join us for, because they realize that, okay, at least this is a place that finally teaches us how to interpret the question, how to derive the answer, what are the right keywords. So this is something that we've been doing for quite a long time. Allow me to also read out a testimonial from one of our students in the past. So I didn't know how to answer OEQs correctly. My understanding of the bio content was quite okay, but I didn't know how to answer questions. Okay, that probably sounds like a lot of you. After joining our class, she learned how to answer questions, gain more confidence. So finally, not so scared of the OEQs, not so scared of the structured questions anymore.
I'm not afraid to take a stand.
I look forward to learning more about bio also. So that's my hope for you at the end of this video. Okay, so are you ready to start? The first step is simple. Just believe that it is possible to score full marks and that it can be really easy. So I've already shown some examples of my own answers, right? And if you look through maybe your own answers, you might have some full marks answers, or go find the best student in your class. Can they do it? You take the same exam as them, right? If they can score full marks, then you also can, right? Yeah, so it is possible. But then, is it easy? This one I think a lot of people don't believe yet, and hopefully at the end of this, you will feel like it's more easy. So in Sec 3 and 4, right, there was this running joke in my class where people were saying bio is a humanities. Okay, it's this running joke that bio is a humans. Because why? In humans, the perception is that you can smoke a lot, right? You can write a lot of stuff, you can put a lot of words, and then it will boost your essay, and you can score more than you actually would. Okay, especially when you don't know the content. So humans, you can do that. You can smoke, you can write very long. So they felt that bio was similar. Okay, that's why it was a running joke. They felt like bio is also about smoking, also about, I don't really know the right words, but it's okay, just spam, okay, just lots of words. And then I will somehow get the correct answer. So that's why they say it's a humans. Okay, but here's the truth. If you think of it as a humans, you'll feel like it's a hit or miss thing, it's very hard, it's not precise. But the good news is that bio is more like math than you think. Okay, math, right, is the opposite of humans. Humans got many different answers, math is always that answer. Humans, you go and smoke all that stuff, math doesn't care about you smoking. They just want the exact lines, right, of like, okay, that's the method mark, and then that is the final answer. Like, it's very fixed, it's very clear and precise. So bio is more like math than we think. A lot of you are afraid because you think that bio is, you need to write so much, you don't know what's the exact answer, but there are exact answers in bio. There are exact key phrases and sentences and points that they look for. Okay, and more often than not, here's the nice part. A 4-mark question could have 6 possible marking points. So it means, right, as long as you hit 4 out of 6, you will get it. You don't have to hit the perfect 4 that the markers wanted. You can hit any 4 of the 6 and you can still score 4 full marks. So it's like math, and then there's also more than one possible answer. There's more combinations, more variations that are accepted, which makes it even easier. Okay, so it is really more like math than we think. If your answer is correct, you will definitely be awarded the mark. Okay, now let's reveal the patterns of what makes highly successful OEQ answers that score very high. Okay, first let me tell you a story. So when I was in secondary again, there was this guy in class who usually he doesn't score very high for bio, okay?
Hey Josh, what you finna get on this chem test?
You know how we do it in chem.
But there was one exam, and it was quite a major one, like I think mid-year's exam. He scored either first or second in class. Like it was very high. Then people were quite shocked. Like, huh? How? You know, that guy usually doesn't. So I was also very curious, right? And I capo. So I went up to him and I said, can I see your paper? So I read his paper, right? Because I'm trying to be like a detective to find what secret ingredient does he have that I don't have, right? So I see his answers. Every time he writes, like let's say it's a 3-mark answer, 3 lines given, he will write 6 lines. If it's a 4-mark answer with 4 lines, he will write 8 lines of his answer. It's that long. So basically, he writes super long for everything, okay? And then as I was reading through, then he said, Keith, you want to know the secret for bio? The secret is just spam like crazy, okay? So that was his philosophy, and that was how he succeeded for that exam, okay? But is that a very smart move? Because if you just spam anyhow, right? Yes, sometimes you will hit a few keywords that actually match the answer, but isn't that a smarter way? That you actually interpret the question, you know what it wants, then you spam what it wants. You just spam the keywords that is relevant to answering the question. Because if you spam irrelevant stuff, the marker is like,
wow, that's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them.
the marker is like, okay, cool, but it's not going to give you a tick, right? Yeah, so I felt like his answer was, his secret was quite close to the real thing. So a lot of students have this misconception that bio is just about spam, but you need to spam relevant keywords. Okay, so that's the golden rule for OEQs. If you can just remember this, it will boost your grades like crazy, it will boost your marks like crazy. Spam relevant keywords that are relevant to the question. Okay, so why is spamming relevant keywords always leads to more marks? Why does that lead to more marks? Okay, like look at these 2 chicken rice, okay? Let's say you buy the one on the left. And let's say they're the same price, both $5, for example. So the one on the left, right, look, only 3 pieces of chicken. Then you'll be like, this is so not worth, this is such a scam. Okay? But if, let's say I sold you this one on the right, where it's also the same price, but you get so many pieces of chicken, then you might be like, this one is very worth, I want to come back again. Okay, so what do you want the marker to feel? You want to feel like the left one or the right one? You want him to feel like the one on the right. So the chicken is like your keywords. If you give very few keywords, then it feels like a scam. Why would they give you the mark? You know, they don't want to sort of pay you the marks, right? So you want to spam so many that they feel like, wow, it's very worth to give you the 1 mark, very worth to give you the 2 marks. Okay, so for every mark that they're giving you, try to spam many keywords so that they'll be very happy. Okay, now we come to something very powerful, which is the FIRED checklist. So this checklist is how you can go through your answer and also helps you with planning to see whether you are going to score very high, as close to full marks as possible for it. Okay, so F stands for what is the focus of the question. And later I'm going to show an example, so don't worry. What's the focus means what is the topic tested. Okay, out of the 18 topics there are, then what is the marker trying to get at? Because you see, the point of the exam is to see whether you studied. So they're trying to test, okay, did you study this topic? And within the topic, there's also a sub-concepts, right? There are many sub-concepts. So the marker is also trying to test 1 or maybe more sub-concepts. So get in the marker's shoes and think, okay, what are they trying to test me? They're trying to see whether I studied this topic and this concept. Okay, so that leads us to the next point, which is I. I stands for irreplaceable words or keywords. So how would a marker know whether you studied that sub-concept and that topic? They would know by looking at how many keywords you can hit. So when you hit more keywords, they will be like, okay, this student is legit, they studied. Because if you just smoke, right, and you didn't study properly, you wouldn't be able to come up with the right keywords. Because you are not familiar with the content, right, and the specific keywords needed in the syllabus. So what are keywords? Okay, a good rule of thumb is just ask yourself, someone who takes physics but doesn't take bio, will they know this word? Example, will they know zygote? Will they know embryo? Will they know implantation? Will they know oviduct?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
These kind of words, I give you more examples. Transpiration pool, stomata. Will they know the parts of the bio parts? And will they know the bioprocesses like ingestion, digestion, assimilation, absorption, egestion, excretion? Will they know these processes? No, right? So the parts and processes they will not know because they're too technical of terms. So that's what keywords are. You want to spam as many of these as possible so that your answer, right, when a physics student reads it who doesn't take bio, they will be like, I don't know what he's talking about. That's what you want. You want to get that effect so that the marker will be like, oh, so many keywords. Okay. Yeah, this person is very legit. Okay, so that's irreplaceable words. The next one is relevance. So this is the number one reason why students will lose marks. This is why you score poorer than you expect in the test. Because you write so long, right? Then you're not actually answering the question, so they gave you 1 mark out of 4. So you think that, oh, I'm giving a lot, but if you're not answering the question, you're not getting awarded marks. This is the number one reason people lose marks. Okay, and that's called relevance. You're not answering the question, not giving it what it wants. So how to be relevant? We need to interpret the question, and that's why later I'm going to show you the command words and what they mean, and also the application questions, how not to go off track in the application questions. Okay, next one is E for elaboration. So this means give more details. Okay, be more specific. Walk the marker step by step as if they are a primary school kid. So this is a very good mentality to have. Hey, I'm explaining to a primary school student. Like they need everything to be explicit. Like for example, why is it that from 6 a.m. to 12 noon, the rate of photosynthesis increases? Okay, it's because there's more light, right? Because the sun rises. Yeah, so there's more light and then more light energy for the chloroplast. So a lot of students will just jump straight to more light energy, then higher photosynthesis. But we can be more explicit than that. We can say, as if it's a dumb kid, right? We're saying to the, okay, not dumb, but just young, right? We're saying, when the time goes from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m., you know what happens in the sky, right? The sun will rise. And that's why there's more light available. So more light energy. So the explicit thing that a lot of people won't say is the sun rises. Okay, so these are like small things where it helps you to ensure you're not missing out on anything. So sun rises, then more light energy is available for chloroplasts to photosynthesize. Okay, and then maybe I want to give even more details because I want, when you're more vague, then you will die. Okay, because vague answers don't do well. Specific answers always do better. So I can be more specific. I can say chloroplasts have more light energy available to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen. Okay, so that is giving more specifics. So that's how to elaborate. Okay, just ask yourself, can I give more and more specifics? Can I explain this? Can I kind of dumb it down for a primary school kid? So that will give you a lot more elaboration already. Okay, and why we need relevance is so that we know we're not elaborating on something that's not answering the question. And then the last one is D for depth. So how much should I write? So the secret to this is you just see the number of lines they give for that question. So they give you the blanks, right? The lines. So if they give a long one, that means you need to write a lot. If they give just one line, that means it's probably a one-word answer or a very short phrase. And the mark allocation, okay? The mark allocation dictates how many points you give. So 1 point is one key idea, and then you move on to the next one already. Then that was 1 mark. Okay, and I'm going to show you many examples. So throughout this document, right? And you can get this PDF. We're going to send it in the Telegram channel. And if you're watching this like on my website or something, you can click the link and you'll go there. So you can download the PDF. Yeah, so for the rest of this document, all the questions that we go through, each point means 1 mark. Okay, each bullet point is 1 mark. That's how our mark allocation is like. Okay, so now let's see an example of this in action. Right? So this question, describe and explain the shape of the graph from 0 degrees to 35 degrees. So you can see they give you some graph here, and rate of photosynthesis increases, right? And then up here is the peak, and then it goes down again. So let's apply fired. Okay, F is for the focus. What are the topics tested? So this one is testing us definitely on photosynthesis, which comes from nutrition in plants. But the explanation, right, for why photosynthesis increases and decreases with temperature is because of enzymes. Enzymes control photosynthesis. So when you adjust the temperature, you will mess up with the enzymes, and that will then affect the photosynthesis. So you notice how it's actually two topics. It's nutrition in plants and enzymes as well. Okay, then I stands for irreplaceable words, which is the keywords. So what are the keywords from these two topics that are relevant? Okay, photosynthesis is one, but honestly I don't count it because it's already in the question, right? Rate of photosynthesis.
Now you can eat sunlight. Using a revolutionary technique, you can convert sunlight into food. Taste the sun.
So enzyme keywords would be substrate, active site, enzyme substrate complexes, optimum temperature, kinetic energy, chances of collision. So these are the irreplaceable words that I want to include in my answer. Okay, next is relevance. And for relevance means answering the question, right? We need to answer these two highlighted parts. Describe, and then second part, explain. So to describe, what does that mean? Later I'll show you the command words and I'll go into more detail, but basically we need to quote the data. We need to give details about from what to what. Is it increasing from what temperature? And then what is the units from what to what? Okay, then explain means give the bio content reasons. So go and explain the enzyme reasons. The kinetic energy increases, blah, blah, blah. Chances of collision increases. Explain that for why the shape goes up. And then only from 0 to 35 degrees. So they are not asking you to explain from 0 to 55. So that is where students will waste time and they will write stuff that is not relevant. Then they think, oh, I'm answering the question, I should get more marks, right? But that part that you wrote, if it's not relevant, it doesn't add to your marks. So it fools you into thinking that, wow, I have such a long answer, so I'm going to score a lot of marks. But it's not true. Because if you have a long answer, but a chunk of it is irrelevant, then you basically have a short answer, you see? So relevance here, I already mentioned this. Okay, then elaboration. Just be specific as possible and be step by step, as if the marker is dumb. And the last one is depth. So allocate 1 mark to describing and 3 marks to explaining. Okay, because you see, it's a 4-mark question. So I asked myself, okay, the explanation, right, the bio explanation for the enzymes part is quite significant, right? There's quite a lot of lines on it. And the describe part, is it very complicated to describe? It's just from here 0 degrees to 35. It increases from, that is 10 to 270 units. Yeah, it's just like that. So that description is quite short. I should only allocate 1 mark to it. Okay, so this is how I gauge depth. I'm like, oh, okay, 1 mark for describe and then 3 marks for explain. And the explanation don't need to be crazy long because it's only 3 marks. Neither can it only be 1 sentence, because if it's 1 sentence, would I get 3 marks? Probably not. Okay, so here is the example answer, right? See, describe is just 1 point because 1 mark. And then explain, and then here's the standard explanation for enzyme temperature, how temperature affects enzymes. Okay, a quick interruption. I'm gonna repeat this later more on how we get such answers, but this, right, is very rehearsable. It's a template answer, there's a formula to it. So how do we study these and become very familiar with them? Okay, so here's how to do it yourself. You go through lots of papers, you go through the TYS, and then you find what are those questions that keep coming out, and then you group them under each topic, you categorize like that. Then after you've done that, these are the commonly asked questions. You then come up with model answers to make your own notes. So you're like, okay, I think the model answer and the right keywords for this question type should be this. Okay, then you study that. So if you study that commonly asked question or CAQs, then that is how you study smart. Okay, and I've done this myself for other subjects also. I've done this, especially science. Actually, not just science. Other subjects also can work. So this is just hacking the exam system, because the exam system, they always use the same commonly asked questions. Like 20% of the questions will come out 80% of the time. So this is compiling those 20% of the questions that are most important. That's how you study smart. Okay, and guess what? At our tuition, we have done this for you. Because we know that all this study preparation, it takes really, really long. So if you go to enzyme CAQs, by the way, this topic 1 to 6 of our CAQ notes is free.
And that's a great price.
It's available to public. So even if you're not in our tuition, if you're in the Telegram channel, you can access this. Okay, so go to enzyme CAQs, and then let's go and find How does temperature affect it? Okay, it's here, see? As you increase the temperature, blah blah blah, all the way until optimum temperature. So beyond optimum temperature, weak bonds are broken, then denaturation, right? This explanation I threw away because it's not relevant, right? My question is just asking how does it increase the rate to optimum, which is 35. They are not asking about how does it denature later. So that's why I have learned this answer. I'm very familiar with it because I have these CAQ notes and I studied it. So when a question like this comes out, I just pick what I need from my template answer and I write it in. Okay, now what if you don't give a perfect, word for word answer? It's okay. As long as you have most of the keywords, you should still score. Okay, so that's it is still way better than just randomly practicing questions and not knowing how to study and not knowing what's important. Okay, so this answer here, I'm just going to leave it. And remember, you can download this PDF of this entire masterclass, okay, in the Telegram channel. Okay, now I'm going to give you all a very sneaky bonus hack. Okay, it feels like cheating. It's a cheating hack, okay, to score more in open-ended questions, which is you add one more point than you need. Okay, but please only do this when it's convenient to do so. Meaning, it's not something where you have to think very hard. Oh, how to get that one more extra mark? No, if it's easy, it comes naturally to you because you're familiar with that concept. Then you're like, oh, I know one more point. I can easily write one more point in. Then you write. If not, you're wasting time. So why do we do this? Because bio, there's no access denied. Even if you wrote something that's factually wrong, it's okay. Like, they're not going to -1. It's just ignored. Okay, so that's amazing, right? And that's why if it's a 4-mark question, if you can easily come up with one more point, you write five points. Okay, then that way, if one of your points is wrong, factually wrong, or you missed out the keywords, and then it doesn't count, maybe your third point is gone. Then now you have, okay, that's like Spider-Man, right? So now you have 4 marks again, and you get full marks. Smart, right? So that's a very sneaky method. And for essay questions, okay, those questions which are very long, 5 marks, 6 marks, especially at the end of the paper too, then a lot of people are afraid of this. They're like, oh, how to score, oh, I don't want to do this. But actually, this is like a marks farm because they have so many possible answers. So, like, let's say it's a 5-mark question, right? But there may be 8 possible marking points. So if you give 6, because, we are trying to use one more point than neither, right? So if you give 6, even if one of your 6 is wrong, then you still have 5 marks. Okay, and essay questions, because they have so many possible points for most essay questions, then it's very easy to hit that full marks. Okay, so that's the good news about essay questions. Now moving on to the next section, how to make command words in bio easy to understand. So we need to interpret this to give the question what it wants. If not, you are not going to score because it's not going to be relevant. So let's start with the simplest one, which is state. So when they ask you state blah blah blah, they want a short answer to the point. Sometimes it's just one word only. Don't give any explanation. Don't say how did you get the answer or like explain more in the process or how this came about. Please don't kiasu. This is not an explain question, it's just a state question. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples of state questions. Like this one, state the part labeled A, right? And that's it. A lot of people, right, they will say, oh, the part labeled A is the ovary. Just say ovary. You'll still get the full marks, okay? Just write one word. Okay, and then they state the time that this anaerobic exercise began. 5 minutes because blah, blah, blah. Don't say because, don't explain. Just say 5 minutes, full stop. Okay, so it's very easy. Please don't waste time giving more than it needs. You need to spend that time on the other questions, right? Like the describe and explain questions. Okay, sometimes state questions require a longer sentence. Okay, but you must still keep it brief because it's just a state question. So example this one, state the short-term and long-term effects of excessive alcohol consumption. Okay, for this we actually have a memory shortcut, and even if you're not our student, you have full access to the memory shortcuts to make this syllabus much easier to remember and to recall. Okay, so where are the memory shortcuts is in our free notes. So on our website, or if you're on the Telegram channel, there's many links to that, the free notes. Just search that BioTutor free notes or link in my bio. So get the free notes because inside, okay, like I'll show you an example. Let's go to, every time you see this kind of light bulb thing means there's a memory shortcut here. And it helps you memorize the content much faster. So the memory shortcut is students drinking alcohol unleashes chaos for brain. So this is for the effects of excessive alcohol. So self-control, reduce self-control, and D is for depressant. Okay, then the rest is the long-term effects. These are long-term ones. So notice for this answer, I'm not going to like go through every single thing because I'm not trying to teach you the content here, but more like the skill. So you notice how in this state, right, what we're doing is we're stating in just one sentence and we're making it brief. So here, another one. Yeah, but we don't explain deeply. We don't say like, oh, you know, it is a depression, it slows brain functions because like it interferes with the neurons and then that's how it slows the it increases the reaction time. No, we don't need to say all this stuff. Like just a very brief one is enough. So don't explain how, don't explain into it, don't elaborate into it. Just one sentence is maximum. Okay, next we move to describe questions. Okay, so here's where it's going to get more detailed. Pun not intended. Because describe is about giving details about something. So it can be about bioprocesses. If they ask you describe the process of inhalation, right, then the memory shortcut is DIRVA, D-I-R-V-A. So diaphragm, intercostal muscles, rib cage, volume, thoracic volume, and then air pressure. So that one is a bioprocess that describe questions can be asking about this kind of thing. Sometimes describe questions are asking for data, quoting of data. So if there is a table in the question or a graph in the question, then you must quote data in your answer. Okay, and marks can be awarded for these kind of data questions without bio content. So even if you didn't study at all, but if you quoted the data and you described it, you can still score marks. Quite amazing, right? Okay, so there are these two kinds of describe. There's some that is about bio, and then there's some describe questions that are just about data. Okay, and later I'll go more into detail about the data response tricks. Okay, so type 1, this is the describe data kind of question only, data response. And so here's just an example, like describe the trend shown by the data in your graph, 3 marks. Okay, and they actually don't want you to explain it. They just want to say, describe the trend. So for example, this one, okay, if I were to describe this trend, I'll say, okay, from 0 to 10 minutes, right, it remains constant. What's this? Concentration of lactic acid remains constant at, this is like what, 90 mg per dm cube. I'll say that it remains constant. Okay, so that's 1 mark already. Then from 10 to 20 minutes, it increases sharply. Okay, I'm assuming this is a 3 mark question. Then from 10 to 20 minutes, it increases rapidly or sharply to, what is this point? 810. Okay, then from 20 minutes to 60 minutes, it decreases less sharply, or I can say gradually. Okay, it's not very gradual, honestly. I could say steadily, because it's quite a steady rate. Steadily to, 90 again. Yeah, so that would be 3 marks, right? 1 mark for remains constant, second mark for sharp increase, and then third mark for the decrease. And that could give me the full marks already. You notice there's no bio explanation, right? I didn't need to explain anything about how lactic acid is generated and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so a lot more of this data response stuff we'll go through later in that section. So here is the type 2 question where it involves bio content. So like this, describe process that generates pressure in the aorta. So this one, there's no data required, right? It's just about explaining how. So we say, okay, during ventricular systole, left ventricle will contract, blood will move from left ventricle to the aorta, and that increases the pressure in the aorta. Okay, notice why it's not very long, because it's only 1 mark question. And remember the fired checklist, D is for depth of how long should I write. Okay, so here's another example. Describe question, right? The functions of the liver. So this one is actually just bio. It's just that bio content they're asking for. Okay, and good news, this one we have a memory shortcut also. It's called don't have bag. Like, where's my bag? I lost it. Yeah, don't have bag.
Put the money in the bag. Put the money in the bag. Okay, let's go. Put the money in my ass!
So DH bag. Detoxification. Converting harmful substances into harmless ones. Breaking down hormones happens at the liver. Liver produces bile and then stores it in the gallbladder. Liver also takes amino acids and converts it to urea. So, excess amino acids and breaks it down to urea. That's called deamination. And liver is also involved in blood glucose regulation, where when there's excess glucose converted to glycogen, and then when there's a lack of glucose, glycogen is broken down to glucose to increase the blood glucose levels. Okay, and then that's how you get the 5 marks. So we're just describing. So it's just pure bio content. Okay, now we come to explain. And there are some differences between describe and explain that I will point out later. I'll show some examples. Okay, so explain is about giving reasons. Why? Basically, the question is, why is this happening? Why? So, reasons, bio content reasons. So it must come from your content knowledge, from your syllabus, from things that you have learned in the syllabus. Okay, and these are not going to be directly found in the question. If not, They're just giving you the answer, right? So it's not going to be in the question, but you have to infer it from your content knowledge. So let's look at some examples. Explain how getting vaccination prevents person from infection by that virus in the future. So this one is a predetermined explanation. You can rehearse this explanation out, which is fantastic. Okay, and we have a memory shortcut for that also, which is a strong team ready to attack. So vaccines have an agent that resembles the pathogen. This will stimulate the white blood cells. Okay, then some white blood cells will remain in the body for a long time. When the real pathogen invades, they will quickly recognize and produce large amounts of antibodies. So that is the predetermined explanation. Fantastic, right? This one is rather easy. So we are giving bio content to explain this line, which is how vaccination prevents person from infection in future. So this is the reason, the bio content reason for this outcome. Okay, and the good news is that quite a lot of the bio reasons like this are rehearsable and can be memorized. Okay, and later I'll mention more about CAQs and rehearsable answers. Okay, so notice with memory shortcuts, the template explanations become very easy.
Come on, man. That's too easy.
Okay, which is why learn and study our memory shortcuts. Okay, there are implicit explain questions within a describe question. So it disguises as a describe question, but it's actually an explain question. So how to tell? There will be this phrase, describe how. That's your signal that it's actually an explain question. So like you see this one, describe how the kidney nephrons help achieve homeostasis when someone eats too high salt. So we have to explain the bio content behind this, right? Which is that, okay, firstly, there's two parts of this question we need to explain. One is, how does the body achieve homeostasis of water potential? Water. Second one is, how does the body achieve homeostasis of the amount of salt? Because there's too much, right? I need to get rid. So we need to explain these two things. Okay, the first explanation is here, how we achieve water potential homeostasis, which is the ADH explanation. So more ADH is released by the pituitary gland, then collecting it out become more permeable to water. More water will be reabsorbed, and that increases the blood water potential. Okay, I forgot to put in here, but there's actually, let me find. Okay, here. There's actually a memory shortcut for the ADH explanation. Okay, so just now I said ADH secretion, collecting ducts, be more permeable, right? This is from the template answer as well. So then we talk about the excess salt. How we explain how is this kicked out of the body, because there's too much. So how we kick it out is we don't selectively reabsorb it, because after ultrafiltration everything's pushed out, right? Or almost everything's pushed out. Then we just don't take it back in. The excess, we just leave it there. Then it becomes part of urine, and then bye, it goes out when you pee. So notice how it's an explain question, right? We were giving bio reasons to explain this outcome, and it's from our bio content. So describe how basically is a explain question. Okay, yeah. So here's another example from our notes screenshotted. Describe how alveoli are adapted for exchange of gases. So each reason is actually explaining how that benefits the exchange of gas rate. See, the alveolar wall is one cell thick. Okay, that's the stating the adaptation, right? Then here is the explaining of how one cell thick is good. So one cell thick means shorter diffusion distance. Shorter distance for oxygen and carbon dioxide to travel. That therefore increases diffusion rate. Okay, another example, small and numerous is just the feature, but how is this beneficial? Because that increases SA to V, therefore increases diffusion rate. So it's actually explaining every point. So describe how is an explain question. So here are even more differences between describe and explain answers. So you can see here, right, that describe the body's responses to cold temperature. So this is just the memory shortcut MASS, which is metabolic rate. Okay, if it's cold, then metabolic rate increase, generate more heat energy to raise your temperature. Arterioles cold constrict, so arterioles will constrict. And then sweat glands, they become less active. Because obviously, right, when you're cold, do you sweat more? No, you sweat less. This one is quite intuitive. And then shivering, you shiver when you're cold, right? Yeah, so shivering will be activated. So you just say these 4 things. And that is just a describing these processes. But then if the question changes to describe how, notice I also increase the mark allocation here, right? Because there's going to be more demand. Describe how does the body respond. So it's not just, oh, tell me the responses, but tell me how does the body even know to respond? How does it even react in the first place? Okay, so how it reacts to the change in temperature is the hypothalamus detects this. Okay, detects that the internal temperature is now below the set point. And that is what triggers the responses. Okay, so I have to have that line about hypothalamus first, detecting it. That is basically giving a bio reason for why the responses occur. So do you notice it's a explain? Explain is all about giving a reason, bio reasons for why something happens, right? So I first give a bio reason and then I describe the responses, the MASS responses. Okay, so it's an implicit explain because it's a describe how question. Okay, so here is a kind of niche thing, like a minor point, but yet it's a very important one. In this topic, transport in humans, they have questions like this, where describe and explain how blood is pumped from one place to another place. Okay, so describe and explain, there's a special treatment you have to give to such questions. Notice how in my answer here, right? This is also in our CAQ notes, and this one is topic 6, so it's free. You can go and access that if you're a Telegram channel. You can see that blood pressure rises, and then that causes the blood to move from atria to ventricle, past the bicuspid valve. So blood pressure is the explanation, the reason for why blood moved. And then here another one again, blood pressure rises, and then that causes blood to move from left ventricle to aorta. So it's explaining why the blood moves, the reason behind why the blood moved. Okay, so that's an explain question. You must use blood pressure to explain why blood moves. But if it's just a pure describe question with no explain in this topic, you do not need to talk about blood pressure. So here's an example. Describe the route taken by blood from intestine to kidney. Then you notice here throughout this entire thing, I have no blood pressure. I didn't mention, I just say blood moves from here to here. Okay, A to B, B to C, C to D. Blood just moves. I don't need to say why did the blood move, how did the blood move. I don't need to say that. So describe questions are so-called more superficial. You don't need to explain as deep because it's not an explain question. Okay, at this point you might be a bit panicking. How on earth are we supposed to know this kind of small nuance and small detail when answering these kind of questions from various topics? Okay, and first way to solve this problem is our notes. Okay, our full topical notes. Like see, this one is a topical like content notes, right? For every topic is free and is available to public. And then for topics 1 to 6, like transport in humans, is topic 6, then it is free to the public also.
And that's a great price.
Okay, and plus that is why you go to a specialist tuition center if you need help for bio. You don't go to some general center that they teach multiple subjects and then they happen to also teach bio, because how on earth are they going to focus and find out all these small details about the subject to really help their students? Okay, and that's why I also quite pissed about how like many centers they teach many different subjects, because like how on earth are you doing that and providing high quality? Okay, that is why I'm very adamant on that bio tutor just teaching bio only. And that's why for now we only teach O-level pure bio, because we want to be so good and give you high quality education before we move on to expanding to other levels. Okay, next we come to suggest questions, which actually might be the most annoying ones out of all of them. So suggest questions want you to figure out a logical answer that fits with, number one, the data given in the question, and second one, with your bio knowledge / with reality. It cannot be something that doesn't fit reality, okay? And it often isn't explicitly taught in the syllabus. Okay, so here's an example. Suggest what causes the fall in blood pressure as blood passes from aorta to vena cava. So this one actually is, though it's not explicitly taught in syllabus, right? But you can learn it. So it's in our notes. I put it in our notes already. And the reason is the further from the aorta, the lower the blood pressure will be due to loss of energy. So that's basically the reason, loss of energy, and it's 1 mark. So that's enough already. That's the answer. Okay, let's go to more difficult suggest questions. Okay, let's look at another example. A patient with lung disease is inactive and consuming too much carbohydrate and fat. Okay, so they're not moving, they're not exercising, they're eating too much. Suggest and then explain, give bio content reasons, the effect of this behavior on the patient's circulatory system and health. So first, let's suggest what will happen for such a person. Okay, inactive and eating too much. You probably can intuitively guess that, okay, they'll eventually put on more weight, right? And put on more fat. So overweight and obesity. So that's why I suggested here, increases the risk of obesity. Okay, then explain on the circulatory system, right? How could it impact? So here's another logical thing that I came up with that fits with the question and fits with real life. Okay, puts additional strain on the already overworked heart. So you might be like, we didn't really learn this in syllabus, and yes, you did not. I had to come up with this suggestion. So which has to compensate for poorer gas exchange due to the lung disease. So they really say got lung disease, right? So what is lung disease? Well, example emphysema, example chronic bronchitis. So all these kind of lung diseases, do they make it harder to breathe or easier to breathe? Harder to breathe, right? So do you think you can get as much oxygen? No. So how will the body compensate? Breathe faster, pump the blood faster around the body. Okay, so the heart is being overworked because it is trying to compensate, so it pumps faster than normal. Why? Because the person has lung disease. So you notice that this part here, I'm going to highlight it yellow because it's the suggestion. Yeah, we have suggested this. And does it fit with reality? Yes. Does it fit with the question? Yes. So that's how you suggest something. Okay, then it also increases the risk of atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is basically what will then lead to heart attack if the blood clot, if it ruptures and then blood clot. So saying this point, was it in the question? Did the question say that, the person will get a heart attack, or explain how the person will get a heart attack? No. So I came up with it. It was a suggestion. And why did I come up with this suggestion? Because I know in the content that what increases the risk of atherosclerosis? Lack of exercise, smoking, consuming too much carbohydrate and fat, like diet high in saturated fat. Yeah, these kind of reasons are already in our content. Okay, and if you need revision, you can just go to our notes. Okay, topic 6. Okay, so these are preventive measures to heart attack, right? So that means that if you do the opposite, then you will increase your chance of heart attack. You increase your chance. And what causes heart attack is, first it must start off with atherosclerosis. Okay, basically where your arteries get clogged, right? So that's my suggestion. And then all this stuff, right, is actually from CAQs, heart attack explanation. Yeah, how does a heart attack occur? So all this stuff, right, is already studied because I know that this will commonly come out. So I just copy paste here to explain how arteriosclerosis will impact the circulatory system and health. Basically, how does it impact? It gives you a heart attack, or it increases the chance of you getting a heart attack. Okay, so that was a suggest example. Okay, here's another one. So this one, right, is more about so-called common sense questions. I know it's a bit difficult because it's, even though it's so-called common sense, but it's hard to see, such as this one, it's a bit hard to see. And this is why doing more various types of questions like we do with our students in class, our worksheets, we try to give you a variety of questions so that you're exposed, and then when these kind of questions, similar thing comes out in your exam, then it's easy for you because you don't have to think out of the box. We basically give you more questions to widen your box so that you don't have to think out of the box. Yeah, and doing this yourself, how would that look like? Doing more practice papers, going for those weirder questions. So suggest why y-axis presented in per 100,000 instead of absolute numbers. Okay, so I just pasted in the context for this question, and you can see that the y-axis here, right, is not an absolute number. It's, let's say, for this highest point, 2000, this is like 155, okay? So 155 per 100,000 in this year for this age group. So that means, right, if the age group of 75 and above is 100,000 people in total, then how many people got hospitalized in that year would be 155. But if this age group is 500,000, then that means that I need to take 155 times 5. Okay, so then whatever that number is, that is the actual number of these elderly who got hospitalized. So that's how to read this graph. And then this question is asking you, suggest why the graph presents it like this. Why don't they present it like normal? Like, why don't you just, put the absolute numbers there? Why need to say per 100,000? Why not just say annual hospitalization number of people, right? For the y-axis. And so here is the explanation which I also gave during our lesson when we taught this. You can see here that for the younger age group, right, like 15 to 64, this is probably a very huge number of people. So I drew a big graph bar like this to show you this is the total number. Okay, then this one is the 65 to 74, smaller, and then those 75 and above, even smaller number of people. Okay, then the shaded part of the bar shows you how many people of this group were hospitalized. So this shaded area, maybe it's 2,000 people were hospitalized in that year. Then this other graph, maybe this number of people, let's say it's also 2,000, let's say it's very exact, also 2,000. And then this last one, also 2,000 people hospitalized. So if the data up here showed in absolute numbers, then it would just be like that. Okay, it will just be 2,000, and then we'll see just all the same height. So suggest why they chose not to do this. Why did they not do this? Why did they instead show per 100,000? Okay, and the reason is because you can clearly see, right, it's misrepresenting, it's misleading data. Because if I only see the absolute numbers like this, right, I would think that all age groups are equally impacted. All age groups, same number of people get hospitalized. But when I see it as a proportion, right, because per 100,000 is a proportion, then it's basically kind of like converting to percentage. Okay, it's not exact because 100,000, right, not per 100 people. But it's similar to percentage. So you can see how the percentage of people impacted is actually the highest here for the oldest people, which makes sense, right? The disease usually impacts the oldest the most. So now we can get a more accurate picture of how each age group is impacted. That, oh, the youngest one is actually the least impacted. This one older, more impacted, and this one is very impacted. And that's exactly what we can see from here. You can see that the old people one is highest rates of hospitalization, whereas the younger people is very low. So that is why they do it this way, to show the proportion. Okay, because comparing by absolute numbers can be misleading. And the reason is the total populations of each category here, the total bar, is not the same. If the bar is all the same, then we'll instantly see the proportions, right? But yeah, because the total is not the same, it's not a fair comparison unless we make them all to the same denominator, so per 100,000. Okay, so that was it for suggest questions. And now I'm going to show you how to answer all aspects of the question. Means listen to all the command words and make sure you give something to satisfy each command word. Okay, imagine that, like, you know, this question, describe and explain. Describe is like your mother, okay, then explain is like your father. So your mother say, hey, I need you to wash the dishes. Then your father say, oh, I need you to sweep the floor, right? So you need to fulfill both expectations. You need to do both. If you only do one and you don't do the other, then you're going to get in trouble. So you need to give both, then you get full marks. Okay, so describe two features about this plant. Okay, about this is actually a leaf of marram grass, which is adapted to survive in hot and dry conditions. So describe, and then with each feature you need to explain it. How does it help with losing less water? Because that's how you can survive, by conserving more water. So describe means there are hairs around the stomata. Okay, that's a description, right, of the feature. Then I gotta explain why the hairs help with surviving. Okay, and this is the explanation. Basically, it increases humidity, that decreases transpiration, conserve water so you won't die. So that is feature 1, explanation 1. Next, describe feature 2, thick cuticle. Explain, because thicker cuticle further reduces water loss through evaporation. Yeah, so this is fulfilling both aspects of the question. Answer all aspects, satisfy all the parties in the question. Then you can get full marks. Hey guys, today's sponsor of the video is me. As of making this video, that BioTutor is Singapore's only O-level pure bio specialist. You mean you don't teach any other subjects or syllabus? Yup, that's how we've been able to make so much resources just for your syllabus. Example, concise notes without all the extra fluff. Commonly asked questions that come out under every topic, so you know the exact keywords and phrases to score full marks. Didn't pay attention in class? Crash course clips to the rescue. We've recorded explanations for every concept under every chapter. Find bio a chore to memorize, flashcards on your phone, which makes it feel like a game. So if you need help with O-level pure bio, what are you waiting for? Click the link below this video or go to thatbiotutor.com. Now back to the video. Hey guys, in this next segment, we're going to go through the types of OEQs that commonly come out and then the study tips of how to overcome them. So what's the method, right, to study and to tackle each type of OEQ? Okay, so the first type, which is kind of annoying for some of you, is the definition questions. Okay, because you need to basically give like a perfect answer. You can have some allowances for change of words, but overall it needs to be almost like word for word. Okay, and so how do we tackle this? Okay, the first thing we need to realize is that understanding it makes it much easier to memorize.
Okay, I understand it now. I understand it now.
Okay, so let's demonstrate this. Rote memorization or blind memorization, which is unfortunately what some students do, is very hard. Okay, so let's try to blindly memorize this. Assimilation is one of those definitions that, based on my experience with students, they are not very clear on. So this one is maybe something that you forgot. Okay, that's why I'm using it. So let's try to not understand anything and just blindly word for word memorize. Okay, so assimilation is the process whereby digested food substances are used to make new cell parts or used for energy. So just try this, okay? Maybe you can pause the video right now and then you just try to repeat that. But without any understanding, just word for word. Just look at the words and then try to get the word exactly as it is. So that means like word for word lah, exactly word for word. Okay, so that is going to be very annoying. Okay, and when I try to do that myself, like 1 second I forget already. So how do you actually do this in an easy way? Okay, and the method that I use is I visualize an image or a picture or a story of what is going on. Okay, so I visualize it like, okay, you see this is glucose, amino acid, this one is the fat molecule that got broken down. So all these are digested food substances. So I imagine them going into a cell, okay, and then they form the new cell parts. The organelles are being formed by these as the raw materials. Okay, of course in real life it doesn't work so magically, like it doesn't like instantly become those new cell parts and organelles, right? But I just imagine it like rearranging and then forming, you know, kind of like a reverse of a Thanos snap. So Thanos snap, then everything disappears, become dust, right? This one's like reverse. Yeah, so I imagine that, okay? So, or it's being used for energy. So I imagine some of it going into the mitochondria, and then I imagine that this lightning bolt for energy comes out of the mitochondria. Okay, so that's what's going through my head. I see these molecules, digested food substances. I see them go into the cell, they form the new parts. I also see them go into the mitochondria, energy comes out. So now I can recall the definition. Okay, so I'm just going to try from scratch. Okay, let's say question comes out. Define assimilation. It's the process where digested food substances, and maybe I'll make mistake, okay?
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
Maybe I'll say such as glucose, amino acids, and glycerol fatty acids will enter cells and be used to make new cell parts. Or enter the mitochondria and be used to release energy for the cell. Okay, so let's say that is my answer. I might actually get full marks, you know, because even though there are some mistakes that I made in that, but it's close enough and the keywords are still there and it's still true to bio, still accurate to bio, so I might actually get accepted. So that's the benefit of memorizing with understanding and visualizing it like a picture. Because firstly, you will, so much easier to memorize, right? Secondly, is that even if you make mistakes, they may be harmless mistakes. Okay, kind of like harmless mutations in our genes, right? So that is what I do for definitions. That is the first trick. Use visualization to understand what this is saying. Don't just blindly memorize word for word. So actually, if I were doing this question, right, I wouldn't actually care so much about is it exactly word for word. I don't care about that. I'm caring about, am I giving all the right keywords? Is it accurate to bio? That's what matters. Is it accurate? And how do I know it's accurate to bio? I go back to my visualization of this picture. Okay, so second trick for definitions is flashcards. Use this. This works magic. Okay, I've used this myself when I was in JC, because in JC chemistry, there are so many weird equations that you need to memorize. And you need to memorize, you know, the number, like, oh, how many aluminium oxide plus how many whatever. Then you memorize the catalyst required for the equation also. And then the product. So it's like so weird, some random numbers and letters, right? That's what equations are after all. I mean, you can try to balance it out, but on Scratch, but you will just waste a lot of your time in the exam. And there are so many equations. So how am I supposed to memorize all? So actually, I struggled for like half a year. I struggled. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to use flashcards. So on Quizlet, what I did was I built a flashcard set of those equations. And so I tested myself. And in 2 weeks of using the flashcards on and off, like around 10 to 15 minutes a day only. Okay, it's like when I go out, then I got free time because I'm traveling, I use the flashcards, okay? Then in 2 weeks, I memorized all of them perfectly already. Like I know them like the back of my hand. So I did that after the chem equations, right? I was like, okay, I think I want to do this for bio also, because bio, the definitions were difficult to memorize for me also in JC. So I put those inside flashcards and then easy. Yeah, so before the prelim bio exam, before the A-levels, I did that and then easy. So flashcards really work magic because I've experienced it myself, and research also backs this up, because what we're doing is called active recall. So let's say, you see, this is a flashcard from, if you're a student, we make flashcards for the whole syllabus already. So definitions, we have content flashcards to help you memorize the content also. We have diagram flashcards, so you can memorize all the parts of the common bio diagrams. So like, let's say you are doing this flashcard, right? A simulation, define it. So active recall is when you look at the question and then you try to remember what's the answer. And then you just say out the answer. I think physically saying it out is more effective. But you can just say it in your head. But I think physically saying it out is better. So that's what I'll do. I'll say it out physically. And then I'll click on it and you'll see the next picture, which is the answer. Then you'll check. Okay, so that's called active recall. Then what is spaced repetition? Spaced repetition means we repeat this process again, but at later dates. So maybe today I do this, right? And then maybe 2 weeks, sorry, not 2 weeks, 2 days later, I do the same set of flashcards again. And then I try the same question, right? Define a simulation. Then I'm like, oh, I did this recently. Then I try and recall the answer. Okay, and this time, it's challenging my brain at regular intervals. Actually, not regular. The goal is to spread the interval wider and wider, so that it's more and more challenging for your brain to recall it. Because it's like, oh, that was 3 weeks ago. Oh, let me try and recall. Yeah, that kind of thing. So that is both achieved by using flashcards. Okay, and how we space it out is you simply rotate through the topics. For topics that you need more, you keep them closer together. Like maybe you can do once every 2 days. For topics that are okay, quite good, you can just let it be quite long. Maybe before the exam, then you start using again. Okay, the second type of OEQ is what I call the commonly asked questions. Okay, this is how I get our students to legally cheat the exams. Because, you see, examiners are chained to the syllabus. They will get fired if they go and set questions, right, that are not testing the content. Because the whole job of the exam is to see whether the student has studied the content and understands it. So if they go and test some random stuff, like let's say O-level pure bio, go and test like JC bio, then that would they'll get fired. Okay, so they have to test the common concepts that the syllabus wants them to test. So we can hack the system, because we know that when they test us, they will always use the same question types under each concept. Okay, and how we can find this if you are doing this yourself is you can go through the TYS answers, TYS questions, you can go through assessment book, you can look at past year papers, and then you come out under each topic, what is the commonly asked question types that keep coming out. Okay, that's called the commonly asked questions. And there's something called the 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, where 20% of questions will account for 80% of what comes out in the exam. So 20% of all the possible questions will come out 80% of the time in your exam. So to study smart, I would study that magical 20%, right? So study smart, not hard. I will go and study that 20%. I know y'all are very busy, so I would just study what is most necessary and prioritize that, instead of trying to, I must get every single possible question and know how to answer all of them. Then it feels like such an overwhelming task, and then you would feel quite discouraged. So instead, if you just know that, these are the important questions for each topic, like for example, enzymes. Let's look at the CAQs for enzymes. Okay, so these are the important definitions that come out often in exams, especially TYS. Okay, this one, mode of action, it comes up very frequently also. And then how to explain how temperature affects enzyme, how does it denature? How does pH affect? How does pH cause denaturation? Okay, this kind of biological washing powders, what's the benefit of using enzymes? So then you're like, oh, that's it. Oh, those are the most important questions that I need to know how to answer for enzymes. Then you're done. Then you feel so much more secure. So that is how to study smart. Okay, so as mentioned, you can compile them yourself. And if you're doing this, you can use our free topic 1 to 6, which are released in our Telegram channel. You can use this as an example to follow. Then you know how to do things, okay, to make your own notes. Now, if you don't want to do that, you want to boost and you want to get all the topics like we have for your use, then you can consider joining our tuition because all our students have this as a benefit. Okay, and why? Because we want to give you a boost. Like we know that 90% of the studying time is used up in doing this study preparation, making notes, making CAQ notes, making flashcards, right? To making memory shortcuts to memorize. So we try and reduce all this study preparation as close to zero for you, so that you can just focus on the 10% of the time, which is actually studying, actually doing practice questions, doing corrections. Yeah, just imagine how much more benefit you will get if you can focus all your time on that 10% that actually matters. And you will use less time than the average student. So you can focus more on other subjects and you can just live life instead of constantly mugging. Okay, so last type of OEQ, application questions.
No. Wait.
Right? So how to revise, how to study for this? Good news is that first, it will still involve a lot of CAQ answers. So if you did step 2, right, where you go and compile this and then you learn the commonly and rehearsable questions, this will be so much easier for you. Okay, so I show you an example, right? Just now that suggest question when we went through earlier in this masterclass was this was the answer. And you notice how, right, this green highlighter part is actually a CAQ. That even though it's an application, yes, this whole thing is an application question, but this back portion, all of these marks come from rehearsable CAQ. Okay, so yeah, it's right here. This is the CAQ that I took it from. So it's really just a copy and paste. So you can get, oftentimes, most of the marks, right, is kind of free because it's also rehearsable. Even though it's an application question, but a lot of the marks come from CAQ answers. Okay, and a student asked me before, how do we train or improve this skill of application questions, right? What's the secret behind it? Okay, so it's very similar to the primary school experiment that y'all did of stroking the nail to magnetize it, to make it into a magnet. So apparently how it works, I mean, I'm not a physics teacher, okay? But apparently how it works is that inside the metal, there are tiny little magnets, but they're all pointing in random directions. So when we stroke the magnet over, right, we're aligning slowly all the magnets to point in the same direction, and then that eventually turns it into a magnet. So whenever you get exposed to a new application question, at first you're wrong. At first you guess, oh, I think the reason or the explanation will be A, and actually it's B, right? Then when you have found the correct answer and you fix your thought process, you have aligned one of those small magnets to the right direction. So over time, the more questions you do and get exposed to, and then you compare to the answer, then you will slowly align more and more of your thought process, so that one day, your thought process will be so-called like a magnet by itself. You don't need any more examples. You can do it yourself. Even if it's a new application question, your thought process is trained enough. Now, will it be 100% perfect? Just like how in the piece of metal, right? Not all the magnets will align perfectly. Some will be still wrong. But it's okay, because you don't need a perfectly strong magnet, right, to pick up things. So just like that, you don't need a 100% amazing perfect application question skill to do most of the application questions. So how we do this for our students in our class is that we give you exposure on a lot of questions. And most importantly, we go through the thought process with you. So every time we go through the thought process, we interpret the question and we're like, okay, so this is what it wants, right? Here's how to derive it and how to lead to the answer. Then what we're doing is we're stroking, almost like we're stroking on your brain to give you alignment to the correct thought process. Now, how can you do this yourself, right, if you're not in our classes? You can look at you hunt for hard application questions in practice papers, such as prelim papers. So go find those which you're like, hey, if this came out right, I'm not sure I can do it. So you don't even need to do it if you don't have time. You can just read the question, you can guess, I think the explanation will be this. Then you check the answer key, and then you're like, oh, okay, looks like my thought process was wrong, now it's corrected. So that's how you slowly are stroking the magnet, which is your brain, and you're aligning your thought process to acquire this skill. Okay, and of course it is easier when you have it guided like in our classes, where we break it down and then we show you the correct thought process. Okay, and last one, I just want to say that there's very good news for application questions, is that there's a formula. Okay, so I have broken it down to something that is very repeatable, and I'm going to share with you the formula in the next section. Bio application questions are easy when you know the formula. So I'm going to show you the formula and I'm going to show you real example questions. Actually, it's a rather hard application question that we're going to go through, and so that you can see it at work. Okay, then you can use this for any application questions that you meet, and most of them will be destroyed by this formula. Okay, so first step, write with an end in mind. Basically, have a pre-planned conclusion.
Ending your essay with "in conclusion" is bland, overused, and predictable. Ending your essay with "and them's the facts" is compelling, unexpected, and confirms that those are indeed the facts.
Okay, because usually questions are on application question, will ask you explain why something happens. So here's an example. Okay, imagine you cannot see the grey part, okay? Just look at the red parts. Why smoking during pregnancy, that means the mother smokes, increase the chance the baby will suffer from low birth mass. So this is the phenomenon that they want you to explain why. Low birth mass, right? And we put that at the end of our answer. That is called an end in mind, a pre-planned conclusion. So even if you want to go extreme with this, right? In your, those lines where they give you, at the last line, you can write this. You can write the highlighted yellow part, resulting in low birth mass. Okay, so that ensures that you have that pre-planned ending and you won't go off track. So for me, I don't actually do this. I don't write it physically. I just keep it in mind that, okay, or maybe I will highlight, underline low birth mass of the question. I'll underline that. So I'm telling myself, okay, at my end of my answer, I need to say that so that I'm going on the right track and I'm not irrelevant. Because if you're irrelevant, then you're going to lose a lot of marks. So that's step one. It's quite simple. It's just identifying that, okay, that's the pre-planned conclusion, then my answer must end in. Okay, next step, you're going to connect the dots. So connect the end, because you already have the pre-planned conclusion, to the starting. So the beginning, right, the starting is always given in the question. Like I show you here, the starting point is smoking during pregnancy. So here, that's why I have the starting point, right? Because it's given a question. And then low birth mass is at the end. So the question always gives you the start and the end. Your job is to fill in the middle. Okay, so how do we fill in the middle? We fill it in with content already learned in syllabus. Okay, they will never force you to fill in with content outside the syllabus. Then the examiner will get fired, right? The setter will get fired for not doing their job. They have to set it, even application questions, they have to set it according to the content of the syllabus. Means, if you study the content, you will be able to explain this. You will be able to come up with the explanation. So actually, the difficult part about application questions is not that you don't know the content, it's just which content to put in there. Okay, and a good way to think about this is dominoes. And I don't mean the pizza, I mean like the actual dominoes that like they fall down, Because bio answers are usually a cause and effect flow. One thing will lead to another, and then that leads to another effect, and so on. So how we will tackle this is, you see, our application questions, since they give you the start and the end, we just need to figure out the middle, right, which is the question marks here. How we fill it in? We fill in from the back, so we work backwards, and we're like, okay, how do we get to the end conclusion? There must be some logical causes that cause that, right? And then, once you cannot do anymore, you're like, okay, I give up. Let me start from the start now. And then you think, okay, that's the starting point. What effects does this starting point have? Then you fill in the next one. What effect does it have? Then you fill in the next one. So that way you're filling in from both back and front, and then slowly you will fill in all the middle parts of the answer. So application questions are just about finding what is the missing dominoes in the middle. Okay, so let's show you an example, right? Using the same question. Step 1 was pre-planned conclusion. Okay, low birth mass, done. Step 2, work backwards. So what does low birth mass even mean? When a baby is born and it's not very light or it's not as big, then when it's weighed, like on a weighing scale, the mass will be low birth mass, will be light. So it means, oh, the baby is just not as big. It didn't grow as much. So I'm asking myself, okay, why is it so light? What caused this? Means that during the 9 months of pregnancy, it didn't grow as much as it should have. Unlike normal babies, it didn't grow as big. Baby. Means the growth rate was slower. Okay? Then I asked myself, okay, what caused the growth rate to be slower? Or, why is it didn't grow as big? Because less cell division, less mitosis. Okay, you can choose either word, though mitosis is the more accurate one. There's less mitosis, or the rate of mitosis was slower. That's why maybe instead of, okay, I'm just going to throw out a random number. Maybe instead of 5 trillion cells in the baby, maybe we only have 4 trillion cells. because the rate of mitosis was slower than normal during that 9 months. Okay, so what could have caused the rate of mitosis to be slower than normal? At this point, you might be like, I don't know. And that's okay. So if you don't know, no problem, just go to the next step. So we've already been filling in dominoes from the back, you notice? So now we go to the front, we try and fill in dominoes from the front. Okay, so here's our current progress. You notice how the start is already there given the question. This was the pre-planned conclusion. And now we have filled in the back. You notice we fill in the end of my answer. So you might be like, wait, should we write this like that in our answer? In the lines? You can do this, but then you might run out of space if you underestimated how big this chunk would be. So what you could do is you could plan before you do the question. You could just write very brief bullet points like arrows pointing down, like, okay, smoke, arrow, question mark. Then at the bottom, arrow, less mitosis, arrow, grow less, arrow, low birth mass. So that way your plan, right, is a separate thing, and you do that before you actually write in the lines. Okay, the next step is work forwards. Okay, but when we work forward, it's a bit more difficult because there are several possible explanations when you start from the forward direction. So this part, you need to rule out those explanations that are not leading to your end result. Okay, so let's do a demonstration. The starting point is cigarette smoke, right? Mother is smoking during pregnancy. So we ask ourselves, what effects could this lead to? Okay, well, in syllabus, you are already taught the negative effects from the 3 chemicals, right? So there's nicotine, carbon monoxide, and tar. And then what are the negative effects from each? Okay, so why I say this is a bit more difficult is because each chemical has different negative effects, right, in the syllabus. So we have to ask ourselves, which one links to less cell division in the fetus? Because that's where we left off, right? You notice here? This is the domino, the latest domino that we have found out. So we need to know what is before that. So we know that whatever this explanation is of cigarette smoke is going to link to a result of less cell division in the fetus. Okay, so let's test it out. Let's try the first chemical, nicotine. So ask yourself, okay, what's the negative effects? It's addictive, and then it increases blood pressure in the mother. Okay, but is there any direct link to the fetus and less cell division? Not really, right? You may come up with some explanations, but they may be far-fetched. Okay, next one is tar. So, cancer, tar causes cancer in the long run, or it could lead to lung disease like chronic bronchitis, emphysema in the mother. Okay, if that happens, then how does it link to the fetus? I mean, I guess you can say that if you have chronic bronchitis and emphysema, then the mother will have less gaseous exchange, then they are receiving less oxygen into the blood, less oxygen gets passed on to the fetus. You could say that, okay? But that one's a bit long of an answer, less direct. Okay, this one, carbon monoxide, is the most direct because there's just one, there's another effect of carbon monoxide, which is it damages the inner lining of the arteries and that promotes arteriosclerosis. But the one that is relevant is that CO, carbon monoxide, directly reduce ability of blood to transport oxygen because it binds irreversibly to hemoglobin. Okay, so imagine like on red blood cell is the MRT, and the hemoglobin in the red blood cell is the MRT seats. So the more hemoglobin you have means the more MRT seats you have to carry people around. People are the oxygen. But carbon monoxide, right, is like chewing gum. That's like very big and very dirty chewing gum. So it will latch on forever to the MRT seats. Then a person cannot sit there anymore. So now that MRT train, if it has a lot of chewing gum on the seats, it can carry less people. So that is what happens when carbon monoxide goes into red blood cells. It is now able to transport less oxygen. Okay, so that is what we're going to use for our answer. Less oxygen transported in the mother means less oxygen goes to the fetus, and that means less aerobic respiration in the fetus because you need oxygen for aerobic respiration. So it means less energy produced, then you need energy for cell division, right? Cell division is literally like making a new cell. It's a very major project. It's a big thing that needs a lot of energy. So yeah, less cell division will happen. Okay, so that is us working forwards. And we have reached that same point, right, of less cell division. Means we have closed up all the gaps in between. Fantastic.
Say that again?
Fantastic.
Yes, it is.
So now let's see our answer. Cigarette smoke, this is what it contains. And then we say, what's the effect? And as a result, can't transport as much oxygen, less aerobic respiration, less energy, less mitosis. Fantastic, we've joined it already. So this is the answer to the application question. Okay, sorry if I sound a bit funny. I'm eating some Vicks candy because I talked so long, my mouth starting to hurt, okay? So anyway, beware of funny / creative answers. So things that are obviously not accurate to bio, remove them. So some students will give this answer, that nicotine, since it increases blood pressure in mother, okay, maybe they'll use that to explain. They'll say that, oh, because of high blood pressure, right? Then when it goes to the maternal blood capillaries in the placenta, explode the blood capillaries, burst.
Huh?
Then we're like, okay, can that happen? Maybe, is it that extreme? Fine, let's just play along with it, okay? Then they say, okay, because it bursts, right, the placenta is not working. Fetus cannot receive enough oxygen or nutrients. And so, less aerobic respiration, less energy, less cell division, low birth mass. So that's their explanation, okay? So we ask ourselves, is there something obviously bio that is not accurate to bio? Which is yes. If the placenta is completely destroyed like this, right, and you can't pass on any nutrients or any oxygen already, so the fetus would just die. How can it survive for 9 months in there and still be growing at this lower rate? It doesn't make sense. So this one is an obvious red flag. If you have obvious red flags in your answer that you're proposing, then it probably will not be correct. Okay, next is choose the most direct explanation. Because when working forwards, there are multiple ways we could explain it, right? So here's one example. TAR can lead to things like emphysema in the mother. Okay, in emphysema, what happens is that, the alveoli, air sacs, they all have these division walls, just like in the toilet cubicles. You go to the toilet, there's cubicles, right? The walls dividing each cubicle. So imagine one day that suddenly, right, the toilet, all the cubicle walls are destroyed, and then you can see other people. So that is what happens to the alveoli. The dividing walls are gone. Okay, they are eroded down. And so now the surface area to volume ratio of the alveoli is reduced. So this part all is true, okay? This is true about emphysema. Then the student says, oh, because of that, less oxygen diffused in mother's blood. Okay, and then because of that, the fetus will get less oxygen. Okay, so this might get accepted, okay? I'm not saying it's wrong. And in fact, the good thing about application questions is that they allow for more than one explanation. Because as long as something is reasonable enough, using the content in the syllabus, even if it's not really what happens in bio, in real life, even if it's not real life, but they saw that, okay, this person made an attempt and it's accurate to the content, they'll be like, okay, fine, we'll still accept you. Okay, so that's the good news. But to be safe, if you have more than one choice, because you have thought of more than one explanation, choose the one that is more straightforward, the one that is more direct, okay, which is the one that I showed in the answer earlier, carbon monoxide. So whichever is more far-fetched will be less likely. Less direct means less likely. Okay, so I choose the carbon monoxide one because it's more realistic, more direct. Okay, you're ready for a worked example? So I took this from a prelim paper, and it was also used in one of our lessons. So this is a leaf hopper, which is interesting because we usually learn of aphids. And aphids, they penetrate the phloem. But this one is interesting, it's a xylem. Okay, which is, wow, strange. So, okay, leaf hoppers carry disease-causing bacteria, and the bacteria will reproduce inside and block the xylem. Okay, so suggest, just part A, we are doing part A, B, C, but let's just analyze part A first. Suggest and explain, okay, we can probably tell it's an application question already, why this can cause leaves of the plant to wilt. So, what is step 1? End in mind. End in mind is that the plant will wilt. So I know that at the end of my answer, I'm going to put, therefore the plant will wilt. Okay, so now step 2, work backwards. What causes the plant to wilt? This one is in syllabus. Okay, wilting process of why plants wilt, how they wilt, what's the explanation, is all in syllabus. Okay, I think I already pasted here. Yeah, so you can see here from our CAQs. Okay, this is how to explain wilting. The blue part that is bracketed. So wilting is always due to the net loss of water from a plant, because the equation of transpiration, which is loss of water, versus rate of water uptake, that means gain of water, is off balance. So if you are losing a lot more than you gain, then you have a net loss of water, and then the plant will start to wilt, because that is the effect of losing water in the leaves. So that is the answer right here. So we work backwards. We basically take this answer and we put it inside. So here's my answer so far. Okay, when bacteria reproduce inside the stem and block the xylem. How do I know this? Because it was given in the question. Yeah? So this is my starting point. So I don't really need to think about this. I just put it in. The ending point is here in yellow. This is my pre-planned conclusion. Then all this stuff is what I've worked backwards. Because I know that for wilting to occur, all this must be true. Right? This is just my content knowledge. I know that to wilt must have an upset in the equation. So I say all these things. Okay, then there's this missing part, right? Of how does blocking the xylem lead to this upsetting the equation balance? Okay, at this point it might be quite obvious to you all already, because if you block the xylem, then water cannot go up, right? Yeah, so that's exactly what we do. We work forwards. Okay, this was a screenshot from that lesson when I taught it. You can see like the bacteria, right, from the leaf hopper here on the left, goes inside the xylem. It replicates, multiply. Now it forms this barrier, kind of. It's blocking the flow. So if you block the xylem, less water can move up from roots to leaves. So that is the final domino that we needed. Okay, here's our final answer. When you block, it reduces amount of water and mineral salts that are transported from roots to leaves. So see, now we receive less water at the leaves, and therefore you have this upset of the equation. You're losing the same amount through transpiration, but your gain of water has gone down because you have this blockage. So imagine like you turn on your tap, right? Then you have like very low water flow. Then you're like, why so low water flow? Maybe because your water pipe, there's some piece of chewing gum that got stuck inside. Okay, so I know I keep on talking about chewing gum, right? But I don't eat chewing gum, okay? And it's supposed to be illegal to sell also in Singapore. Okay, anyway, part B. So yeah, for part A, I hope you see how we use the formula. And in mind, work backwards, work forwards. Okay, so let's do that for part B. This one very easy, only 1 mark, right? Okay, but actually it's kind of hard to think of the answer. So, and in mind, white patches, because the leaves of these plants affected may develop white patches like this picture. So suggest a reason. Again, it's application. So I'm going to write the end in mind. Therefore, white patches will form, right? Okay, now I work backwards. What causes white patches on leaves? Okay, if it's think about it. Leaves are always green, right? Why are they green? Because in the syllabus you learn the green pigment is chlorophyll. So if it's white, means it's lacking in chlorophyll in that patch. So the default color of all organisms is usually white. Because white is when you don't have any pigments. But when you have a green pigment, it will appear green. If you have black pigment, it will appear black. Okay, so white means absence of pigment. Therefore, absence of chlorophyll. So now I know, okay, the last part of my answer, I must write, okay, wait, let me remove this bullet point, The last part of my answer, I must write, result in white patches because lack of the green pigment chlorophyll. So now we go to work forwards. What is the starting point? The starting point actually is up here again. Blocking the xylem, so water and mineral salts are reduced, the transport is reduced. That is my starting point. Okay, so I ask myself, if you block this, how could that lead to a lack of chlorophyll? Okay, so this part is honestly a bit challenging because it is outside of most of your content knowledge. So we could think of 2 possible explanations. Since you're blocking water, maybe water is needed to make chlorophyll. Okay, how could water be needed to make chlorophyll? Think about your syllabus, right? What does it teach you? What is water used for in a plant? It's used for photosynthesis, right? Carbon dioxide and water give you glucose and oxygen. But there's something very important, that water is not a limiting factor of photosynthesis. Because there's more than enough, there's billions and trillions of water molecules in each cell. Actually, I don't know if it's trillions, but yeah, there's basically lots and lots of water molecules in each cell. So even if you have like from 10 billion, you go to 5 billion, there's still so many water molecules to use for photosynthesis. It's not a problem. It's always in excess. So this is something that we've also put in our notes for that topic, that remember, water is not a limiting factor. So this explanation, right, I was going to say lack water, then less photosynthesis, then less release of energy, so less chlorophyll can be made. Okay, that was my argument. But now I notice that, I cannot use the argument because less water does not lead to less photosynthesis. Okay, because it's not a limiting factor. So the first argument is out already. So I have to go through the mineral salts explanation. Lack of mineral salts, then cannot make chlorophyll. Okay, so this one is more likely true. Do you need to elaborate? No. You just say lack of mineral salts, cannot make chlorophyll, done. Because it's a 1-mark question. So here's my final answer. Mineral salts are required in the production of chlorophyll. Then, therefore, shortage of chlorophyll, white patches. And this is just 1-mark answer. So that's why you don't need to elaborate how mineral salts are involved. And you are also not taught in syllabus, so it's not fair to ask you. Okay, at this point you might be like, but how are mineral salts actually involved? You might be curious, right? Okay, so here's FYI for your info. This is a chlorophyll molecule, chemical structure. And you can see in the middle there's a magic atom called magnesium, right? Mg, magnesium. And that is what does the magic, which allows for photosynthesis to begin. So that is a mineral salt. Mg2 plus the magnesium ions are found in the soil. They get absorbed at the roots, go up the xylem, and then sent to the leaves. Leaves use them to make more chlorophyll. So block the xylem means lack of magnesium, therefore lack of chlorophyll, therefore white patches. Okay, but this is FYI, you don't need to explain this in your answer because you did not learn this. Okay, so this is why more exposure to application questions like this gives you an advantage over the rest of the students. Because you will know more of this FYI stuff. Then it will not be so difficult for you to come up with this answer. Because when I saw, because I already had the knowledge of this, right? I knew that there's magnesium inside. So when I first saw this question of like, what causes the white patches? Then I was like, okay, chlorophyll. Because my mind went to work backwards already. Chlorophyll. Lack of chlorophyll. And then, mineral salts, right? Magnesium ion. So I already knew the answer instantly. So I'm cheating because I have the FYI knowledge outside the syllabus, right? And so how you can get this unfair advantage is the more exposure you have to application questions, then the more unfair advantage you have. So every time you do an application question, right? Even if it's some weird disease or like some G6PD enzyme deficiency, right? Then you're like, this is not in syllabus, right? But it would be great if you research it, if you Google it. Just a brief, maybe you chat GPT, can you just give me a summary of what is G6PD enzyme deficiency and how does this affect the person? So you will really turn over every stone and you will start acquiring this additional FYI knowledge. Okay, so let me draw like a very simple diagram. Okay, this is the content knowledge of the syllabus. Sylla. Okay, then this is the FYI knowledge around the syllabus that is very useful to the syllabus. FYI. So that is why I say turn over every stone. Go and research on what the question, what's the phenomenon of the question. Go research it just a little bit. Then you're building up this additional FYI that surrounds your syllabus and is very useful for your syllabus. Because sometimes the application questions will do this. Okay, they will take slightly a little bit outside of the syllabus and they'll ask you something on it. Now they won't ask directly, just like how this one here. It did not ask, explain, which atom is required in the making of a chlorophyll molecule. That's so out of the syllabus, right? So they don't ask things like that. They ask you stuff that is still technically within the syllabus or just pushing the boundaries. But knowing the FYI stuff made it so much easier for me to answer this question. Okay, so that I hope this diagram makes sense. Okay, now we go to part C, the last part of this application question. Suggest an explanation. The fact that the fruits of the plants affected are small and poorly developed. So step 1 is fruits are small, and in mind. Put this at the end of my answer. Therefore, the fruits are small. Okay, step 2. Why are the fruits small? Or what could have caused the fruits to be small? Okay, think about it. Small means there's a normal size, okay, and then there's a tiny size, right? The normal size one, why is the normal size bigger? Because there's more cells, right? So, hey, isn't this similar to the low birth mass question? More cell division must have happened for the normal one, and the small one means less cell division. So that is one possible cause. Another possible cause is lack of raw materials. So if I'm trying to build a house, but I have lack of energy, then it's very hard, right, for me, to build a house, very difficult. So I'll be slow, and then that could cause the development to be poor. Or maybe I'm trying to build a house, and instead of 100 planks of wood, I only have 10 planks of wood. Then it's like, what? How am I going to do? Then I built a very small house. So less raw materials to create cells could be is one of the reasons for the fruits not growing to the big enough size. Okay, so at this point, I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure, is it because of this or is it because of this? It could be both even, right? But what caused them? I also don't know. No problem. We have already covered some ground. So let's go to the next step, which is working forwards. So yeah, you notice how, right, basically you just try to fill in from the back as much as you can. And once you cannot, you just go fill in from the front. Once you cannot, you try to fill in from the back again. So you just keep going back and forth. But usually what happens is, you fill in from the back, they fill in from the front, and then it should be done already. Okay, so now I'm going to work forwards. What is the negative impact on the plant when they have this disease? Sorry, not disease, but when they have this pest, right? The leaf hoppers. So one of them is in part A, which it says, suggest and explain why it wilts. So that already is one of the negative impacts on the plant. Wilted leaves. And how could that hurt the plant? Lower total surface area of the leaves, because, imagine like leaves are solar panels. You want them spread very widely so that you can have maximum solar energy absorption, right? But now, imagine we crumple up our solar panels to a very small area. Then the amount of light energy we can get is less. So that's why less photosynthesis. Okay, there's another reason, is that wilting also closes up the stomata. So CO2 cannot come in. With less CO2 means less photosynthesis. So we know that one of the negative impacts is less photosynthesis. So we just put a bookmark on that. Maybe it could lead to an answer to link to one of these. So we just hold the thought. Next, we know that from part B, less chlorophyll, right? Because there's white patches. Less chlorophyll, less photosynthesis. So it seems like the negative impact in total is less photosynthesis. So we ask ourselves, okay, let's link less photosynthesis to one of these, or maybe both of these. So can you link that? So I let you think first, right? You can pause this video. Okay, so here's the answer. Less photosynthesis, less glucose. Less glucose, less aerobic respiration. Right, so less glucose, then less aerobic respiration. So it means release less energy, less cell division. Notice this is very similar to the low burst maths question. So there is something missing in between, because photosynthesis is in the leaves, but the fruits are not the same place as the leaf, right? It needs to get transported to the fruit. So the in-between step is called translocation, where the manufactured food substances such as glucose is transported through the phloem to the fruit, to where the new fruit will be. So that is why I want to add this extra point to be more specific. This is called elaboration. Walking the marker step by step, not missing out any step. So I want to say that less glucose will be translocated to the fruit. Okay, so how does this affect aerobic respiration, less cell division? I already mentioned that. So yes, we have successfully linked one explanation. How about this one? Can we also link this? Okay, actually the answer is yes. Because there's something called the fate of glucose. Let me bring that up. Okay, can you see this? That glucose is used in aerobic respiration, we already mentioned this, but it's also converted to starch, cellulose, amino acids and fats for making other things. So, with less glucose, we will have less cellulose for the cell walls, less fats to make cell membranes, less amino acids to make proteins for cell parts. So that means we have less raw materials for building cells. So it links to our other possible explanation here. So less building blocks to make new cells. So with that, we can see our answer so far. Okay, so let's go all the way to the bottom first. This is my end in mind, step 1, right? I put this at the bottom of my answer. Step 2 was, I work backwards. So why will the fruit growth be reduced? Because less aerobic respiration, less energy for mitosis. Another reason why less growth is less raw materials. So the blue part is working backwards. Then working forwards. Wilting is where I started, right? Because I got that from part A. Chlorophyll, lack of chlorophyll, also I got this from part B, is another starting point. I explained those, it all leads to the same outcome, less photosynthesis. Less photosynthesis. I then use this to talk about how less glucose will be transported to the fruits. So this is the link in between of photosynthesis to going to the fruit. Translocation, transporting the glucose. And by the way, transport of glucose, do we just go through the phloem directly? First step is we need to convert to sucrose, and then at the fruits, it will convert back to glucose. So the phloem always transports stuff as sucrose, not as glucose. Yeah, that is another common misconception students have. So then I realized, hey, I actually have so many points. So that is why I say that those longer questions are actually your friend. Because this one I think is a 5-mark question. Yeah, it's a 5-mark question. And how many points do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different possible points. So as long as you get 5 of 7, you should be able to score full marks. So you just choose any 2 reasons here and any 2 reasons here. Personally, I don't want to skip this reason because I think that this is a link between how the glucose in the leaf gets to the fruit. So I don't think we can skip this. Like I personally would not recommend skipping it, even if the answer key allows you to skip it. I would try not to skip it. Yep, so that is how we build this entire long answer. Data response questions are easy if you know the right methods to answer them. So here's everything you need to know to ace them. Okay, so first thing is that this is called data response for a reason. You must quote the data in your answer. Just think about it, if you were the setter, okay? You set the question, you put all this data in the question, and you painstakingly assembled it. And then the student writes their answer completely ignoring all your data and just writing bio content without quoting any of your data. You'll feel so annoyed, right? Like you put all the effort and then they just ignore all your data and they didn't use it in the answer. So as a setter, you would not give them the mark. You would penalize. And that is why you will get penalized if you don't quote the data. Okay, so always quote data as much as you can. And here's a bad example. So look at this sentence. The rate of photosynthesis increased throughout the experiment. A good example is that if there's data in the question, then we say from what to what. So increase from 10 units at 0 minutes to 90 units at 20 minutes. So notice the template here is what is the y-axis change and what is the x-axis change. Quote both the x and y-axis whenever possible. Okay, now I want you to copy these descriptive phrases, these templates, copy them and use them when you describe data. Okay, so increases from what to what, this is a very simple one. But sometimes you can notice that, oh, it's like an exponential thing. So exponential means that it's an increasing rate. How do I know that exponential is an increasing rate? Okay, let me just do some demonstration. So let's say this is the graph. How do I know this is an increasing rate? Simple, you take a ruler and then you see the gradient. So here's my ruler, right? I feel like I'm teaching math now. So that's my gradient is basically almost 0 at this next point. Okay, notice the gradient is getting steeper. Here, it's getting even steeper. Here, it's getting even steeper. So I noticed that this is an increasing gradient, means increasing rate. Okay, but the other way around means decreasing rate. If it is sloping like this, this is the decreasing rate because the gradient is getting flatter and flatter. Okay, and then just to show you decreasing rate, this one is also a decreasing rate because at first you see the gradient is very, very steep, then the gradient gets less and less steep. So this is called decreasing rate. Okay, so next one is when you quote the greatest increase or the greatest decrease, basically like the most shocking or the maximum or minimum value of the trend. And so this one, right, is how to get an extra mark where let's say it's a 3-mark describe question. Maybe you say this one, or let's say 2 marks, right? Let's say you say this point, but then you're like, is there anything else I can say to get a second mark? So then this is how you insert another mark to fulfill the mark allocation. Okay, you can also use words like gradually increase or sharply increase. Okay, here's another example. Gradually increase first, then peaks at what? So like what's the maximum value? And then it decreases sharply. Or another descriptive phrase is remains constant from what? Like example, 0 minutes to 10 minutes at what level? So example, at 80 units. So remains constant from 0 to 10 minutes at 80 units. Now here's how to quote data accurately. So if you have been given a grid, then be as exact as possible. So for example, let's look at the x-axis here, right? So this was screenshotted from one of our lessons, where you can see that if we try to say what is A, the x-axis at A, what time is it at A, right? It's not exactly just between 4 to 8 p.m., which is 6 p.m., right? Because you notice 6 p.m. is one small square after A. So point A is actually one small square before 6 p.m. So we can say, okay, A is around 6 p.m. and B is around 8 p.m. But that's like quite inaccurate. So we can actually divide up the 10 small squares to be 24 minutes in each square. Okay, that's because this is 4 hours, 10 squares, so each square is 0.4 hours, which is 24 minutes. So I just take that minus 24 minutes is 5:36 p.m. I do the same process for B, I get 8:48 p.m. So now I can properly code my data for my x-axis. A is this one and B is this one. So that's how to be specific and accurate and as exact as possible if you have a grid. Because you have no excuse. If you have a grid, you have no excuse. Okay, next one is what if you have no grid? Estimate. Okay, so use your ruler, put it there, and then estimate. So I'm going to show you a live demonstration from one of my past lessons. So I'm going to insert this clip, and then you can watch how I derived it. Now, how to code the data, okay? So even though it's no grid, they didn't give a grid, right? So you cannot see exactly what are the numbers. Estimate. You use your ruler and estimate. So I will take my ruler, and I will see here, okay, what's this point? Okay, it's around there. So I draw. It's here, right? So now we try and estimate what is that. In between 100 and 120 is 110. So what's this? 115. Okay, so I write here 115. Later I'll code that data. Okay, let's do it for the peak also. Okay, so this looks like here. Okay, so that if this part is 150, that is 155. Okay, so the peak is 155. Okay, don't need to be perfect, but just estimate. Try to be as exact as you can, precise as you can. Okay, so you saw how I did that. And now what if there are no values on some of the axes? Like, see this one, again, the first example. There's no y-axis values. So this one, they put 5 here, right? Please ignore it. I was actually asking my class, do y'all think I should call this 5? No, I can't call it 5 because I don't know whether this starts at 0. And maybe this is 10, right? Maybe this is 50. How do I know it's 5? There's no scale of the y-axis. So I shall just leave that blank. So in this case, right, I can only code the x values, but I will still be descriptive with my language. So I'll say that from A to B, it decreases sharply. Okay, and how do I get these descriptive phrases? It was up here, descriptive phrases. Another kind of data response question will ask you to state X number of conclusions that can be made from the data. So in these questions, right, the common mistake students make is that they just quote some random piece of data. But a conclusion means it's something we can learn about this phenomenon, about this disease. So something we can learn, something interesting, notable, or significant. So for example, look at this. This was a real question. State 3 conclusions made from the data shown in this figure. Okay, so 3 conclusions mean 3 interesting things we can learn about the phenomenon or about this disease. Okay, so we can see that, like here's a common answer from students. They just say, oh, well, look at 61 to 80. There are 48 people, so they just read off, okay, 48, then just write that, okay, that's one conclusion. But this kind of answer does not fulfill the point of the question, because the examiner will just be asking themselves, so what? Like, who cares if there's 48 people? How does that answer the question of something we can learn? So we have to phrase it in a way that is something we can learn. So what things we can learn is what's the minority, the minimum value. Like, oh, actually, the age group with the least number is 0 to 20, and there's only one patient. So that is something we can learn because it's the smallest value, or the age group that has the least number of patients, or the age group that is least affected is 0 to 20. See, that's the thing I've learned about the disease, that it affects this age group the least, and it affects this age group, 61 to 80, the most, because they are the most number of patients. So that's why I say majority people with SIADH, this disease, are aged 60 to 80, where there are 48 people, which is 65.8%. Why did I do this calculation? To prove that it really is the majority, that it really is a very big amount of them. So this way, I phrased it as something new we have learned. Even though it's the same piece of content, it's the same thing I drew out, but I phrased it in a way that, oh, this is an interesting thing we've learned about the phenomenon. Okay, and just in case you wanted the answer for reference, here it is. I believe it's also in our TYS answers and our free TYS answers. If you're in our Telegram channel, there's a link in the just join the member benefits message. Just click the pin message and you'll find the TYS answers. This is one of the TYS answers taken from there. And our TYS answers are made by us, means we bold all the keywords, we make it as accurate as possible, so you have an actual good answer to study from compared to the TYS assessment book kind of answers from Popular. That one, a lot of students complain that it's not good. Okay, sometimes questions you will get, they want you to describe and explain the data. So for the data quoting, the describe is as usual. I've already shown you the templates of how to describe. What are the descriptive words? Just use that. And then there's an explain component. So how do you split the marks? You already know how to quote data, and you already know how to do explanation. Just now, earlier in this, there's the command words section of how to interpret the command words, right? So explain means give bio reasons. So how to split marks? Usually, this is the answer. 1 mark for describing. Everything else goes to explain. So it's a 4-mark question. Then they say describe and explain the data. 1 mark, I will give my description of the trend. 3 marks, I'll explain. So I'm just jumping back to here. You know this one earlier in the masterclass? So describe and explain 4 marks. Notice how many we give to describe? 1 mark. And then everything else we give to explain. Okay, however, sometimes the question will give you clues that they actually want you to split it in another way and not the usual way. So here's an example. They show you this. This is the data, right? And then they say, using this figure, and every time you see this using whatever figure, shows you, they're trying to remind you, please quote the data. Even if they don't say it, but there's data, then you have to quote it. So they say describe the differences, plural. Okay, and they say suggest a reason, singular reason for the differences, and it's 3 marks. So when I saw, okay, differences, singular reason, 3 marks, then I was like, they want 1 reason, okay, like this, 1 mark, and they want more than 1 difference, so 2 marks. Now, can I put more than 1 difference into 1 mark allocation? That means like this. That means it's worth 1 mark. Now, you look at this, it's a very long answer, right? Do you think that's worth only 1 mark? Probably not. And it looks like it's more of a describe question where they just want you to quote the data and describe the trend by itself. So if you watch the command words section, okay, this part of the masterclass where I was talking about these kind of questions where it's just about describing the trend and they can give you all the marks from that. Yeah, so this one is similar where the first 2 marks, they're just purely asking you to describe the trend and they're just going to give you 3 marks even though there's no bio content. Yeah, so that's why the first 2 marks here actually just comes from no bio content, just describe the data. And then it follows that if, that's 2 marks, that means the last mark must come from this 1 reason. So this 1 reason, I just need to explain worth 1 mark. I don't need to keep writing so many lines, just, straight to the point. And it's also quite a common sense answer. Old people, we know that they are weaker in immune systems. So they are more susceptible to infection, and then they'll get more severe symptoms when infected. And that's why they get hospitalized more frequently. So that is just 1 reason to explain both these differences. Hey, so are you always running out of time in your open-ended questions? Are you always writing too much and then as a result you can't finish the paper? So if that's the case, then I'm going to give you lots of tips here to never run out of time in open-ended questions and how to just be faster.
My name is Flash.
How fast does that make you?
It means it makes really fast.
Let me see how fast.
Okay, so you know what's the number 1 hack to increasing your writing speed? Is it to use a special pen? Is it to train your finger muscles? No, the number 1 hack to increase your writing, right, is write less words. Because if you write less words, then you take, even if your finger muscles are the same strength, you can still finish it faster than someone who has to write so long. And can you write less but score more? Yes, you can. Okay, bio is not about can you smoke how long. Bio is about how many keywords are you giving that actually are relevant and hitting the mark allocation, hitting the marking points. So why do people overwrite then? Why do students overwrite? Okay, you probably know this yourself. It's because you are insecure about, is my answer correct? Is it accepted? Am I hitting the right things? Is this what the question wants? You're not sure, so you kiasu, and then you just spam to be safe, play safe, right? So that is why you overwrite. Why a lot of students overwrite? Because they are not sure about, am I writing what the question wants? If you are sure, you wouldn't need to overwrite. Okay, so write less. That's the secret. And I'm going to show you a lot of tips on how to write less. But obviously, don't write less of the keywords. We want to spam relevant keywords, but everything else, we want to write less. Okay, so here's how. Firstly, you remove everything that's not even answering the question, not even relevant. Now, you see this question here? Describe how the body removes urea. So a lot of students, right, will start with this. they'll talk about, oh, urea, how the body removes urea. Oh, I know, it's amino acids are broken down, deamination in the liver. So then they write about that. But you notice this is not about how urea is removed. This is about how amino acids are removed. So you're answering a different question. And also it's saying how urea is generated. Did the question ask, describe how urea is generated and then how does the body remove urea? No, right? So this whole first sentence, right, is useless. Just delete. It's just wasting your time. So just go straight to assume urea is already there at the liver. Then how is transported out of the liver to the kidneys? Okay, then you talk about how it doesn't move around in the blood. Then you talk about ultrafiltration in the kidneys, in the nephrons. You say that it's not selectively reabsorbed, and then it leaves to the ureter, to the bladder, urethra, and then out the body. Okay, next thing is stop repeating yourself in your answers. You're only awarded marks for the same point once. Even if you repeat, you're not going to get a second mark. So I show you an example that some students may write their phrasing like that. I believe this was taken from a real student's example. Then I was like, I noticed the student is actually wasting the time because they are repeating the same point. So describe, explain how enzyme rate changes when you increase temperature. So you see what the students say. At low temperature, the enzyme and substrate molecules, low kinetic energy, chances of collision between enzyme and substrate are low. So they are saying, right, this is the state of the enzyme and substrate when low temperature. Then they say temperature is now increasing. So kinetic energy of enzyme and substrate molecules increase. Chances of collision increase. Enzyme substrate complexes will form faster. So right, the first sentence is actually already implied by the second sentence. You notice all the keywords there are the same. And we are saying that basically last time the kinetic energy was lower. Last time the chances of collision were lower. That's why here is already being implied. We don't need to say that, oh, last time is lower. The fact that we say it's increasing means that last time it was lower. So I hope you see how the first sentence is implied by the second. And there is no need for the first sentence. So just delete. Okay, next I'm going to show you some paraphrasing tricks. You know, there's this section in English where you have to summarize, like a part of the comprehension text. And summary requires a lot of paraphrasing. So you use shorter words. You change the sentence structure, right? And that helps you to reduce your word count in the summary section of the English exam. Okay, so we're using the same skills here, but we're using this on our own answers. So you can see here, these are some accepted synonyms to reduce your word count. So you can just copy these, right? You can read through my table and you can learn these phrases and you can replace it from your answers to reduce your word count. Reduce how many letters you need to write. So instead of saying therefore, you can just write so. Instead of saying increases, you can just say raise. You notice how it's less letters, right, to write. Instead of saying increase, you can say rose. Instead of decrease, fall. Okay, then because you can just say as. Okay, through you can say via. Okay, then this one, this is a nice trick that I like to use all the time. You can see that we are saying the word water potential twice. So water potential is an aspect of mesophile cells, right? Or like a statistic or a factor. I like this word aspect. So water potential is an aspect of mesophile cells, and it's also an aspect of the xylem. So I can just change it to than that of the xylem, and it will, this word that refers to water potential. So I've saved writing so much, I just changed the word that. Nice, right? Okay, then things like this, rate of transpiration, rate of photosynthesis. You can just move the words around and drop this word. So it becomes photosynthesis rate. So use these tricks to save some words. Now I've even have a list for specific topics. So again, you can download the PDF that comes with this and get all these specific, you can just copy all of these. Okay, so Golgi body is shorter than apparatus. Instead of saying the turgor pressure of the mesophile cells is lost, you can say the turgidity is lost. Frequency of collision, you can just say chances because chances is a shorter word. Okay, this one, rate of formation of enzyme substrate complexes. Wow, very long, right? I just say enzyme substrate complexes form faster or form slower. Then another notable one is breathe in and breathe out. You can just say inhale and exhale. Normal condition is also known as the set point. These are both keywords, right? But they are allowed to exchange. So there are some keywords that you can exchange, and then there are some where they are keywords that never meant to be changed, then you don't go and change them. Okay, here's another notable one. In molecular genetics, you learn DNA contains 4 bases. These are called nitrogen-containing bases. But nitrogenous is a much shorter word. Okay, my next tip is again something I see common in students, and I'm not sure why they like to write their conclusion at the start and at the end. So, like, see this question, explain why smoking during pregnancy increased chance of baby will have low birth mass. So they will start with this, they'll say baby will experience low birth mass because, then they put the whole explanation, and then at the end they put therefore baby will have low birth mass. So it's repeating what was at the start. Then why? You're just like wasting more words here. So just say it at the end, right? At the conclusion. That is how to save your words. Okay, I'm going to show you all some really unethical hacks, okay, to reduce your word count and to write faster. And this is desperate times call for desperate measures. So go ahead, do it in exams, right? Especially bio exam. So this is not English exam. Even if you have poor grammar or poor sentencing, you can still get the full marks. And that's what I love about bio. You don't have to get this like grammar Nazi kind of examiner trying to like kill all your grammar mistakes. Okay, so let me show you some examples. Look at this question. Explain how weed killer applied to the soil reaches the site of action in leaves. So we got to talk about how does it go into the roots, how does it go up the plant, up the xylem, go into the leaf, go into the chloroplast to stop the photosynthesis. Because weed killer is basically a poison for weeds. What is weeds? It's not the smoke weed. This weed means unwanted plants in your crop field. So let's say I'm planting rice, and then I got these random plants that come in, and because I make the land very fertile, very nice, right? So they also want to come and grow. And then I have this random one here. There's some random plant that just the seed flew in from somewhere. Then I spray and it dies. Okay, so how does it work? That's what this question is about. And here is an answer that you may see. Okay, let me show you after we drop all the connecting words or the filler words in between. So all the bolded ones, right, are keywords that we will not drop. But the in-between unbolded words are filler words or connecting words. They just make the sentence readable. So what we do is we drop as many of them as we can so that it still can be read, but it's horrible. Okay, so let me show you. So you can compare here. When a weed killer is applied to the soil, it diffuses from region higher to lower concentration in root hair cells, down a concentration gradient. So see what I said. When weed killer, I just go straight to weed killer applied to soil, diffuse from, okay, blah, 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 all this is the same. Okay, because all these are keywords. And then here, weed killer transported up the xylem by transpiration pool. I say moves up xylem by transpiration pool. Okay, then this last point, actually I should move this here. At leaves diffuse out xylem to mesophile cell. Diffuse into chloroplast stops photosynthesis. Nice, right?
Nice.
So it's like really just bare essentials of what you need to make it still make sense. Okay, I have one more example here because I think this is a very valuable skill and I wanted to show you more examples. So just look at the length difference, okay, between the two. Just look at the length difference. Like, let's just read the last line. Embeds itself into the uterine lining during implantation where it develops into a fetus. This one I just say embeds in uterine lining during implantation, develop into fetus. So you notice the difference is that the bolded words here are more spaced apart, whereas the bolded words here are more compact. So this is what it means by spam relevant keywords. Even though my answer is short because I've dropped all the in-between words, but I'm spamming the bolded words, the relevant keywords. So you want to saturate your answer to be filled with these bolded words and have as little of the in-between connecting words as possible. Okay, I know it's a bit hard to read because it's like the English is chopped up. So do this when times are desperate and you're running out of time in the exam, then do this. Okay, and congratulations guys, you have reached the end, and it's been hours of me talking to film this entire video, but I think it's worth it. So your OEQ skills are now better than more than 95%, maybe even more than 98% of all the Sec 3 and 4 O-level Pure Bio students. Okay, because almost none of them are being taught this. And that few percent who have these skills is because they found it out themselves through the hard work. But I want to make this accessible for everyone, so now all of you have access to the same skills. Okay, so if you reach the end, can you just please comment in the YouTube video that, hey, I reached the end. Okay, just say it and I'll be like, wow, I'm so proud of that guy or that girl. So, and can you say your biggest takeaway? If you have more than one, you can list more than one. Okay, and I would appreciate it because I know that, oh, Like all my hard work, actually people are benefiting from this. Okay, then I also want to ask you whether I lived up to the guarantee at the start of this video, which is that you will learn more than 2 years of school bio teaching on OEQ skills. So did you feel like this was true? If yes, then you comment that, yep, I learned more than 2 years worth of OEQ skills that I would have learned in school from this masterclass. Okay, and if this entire masterclass was very useful to you, here's all I'm asking in return. Okay, just like this video, share it to your friends, spam it to everyone. Say, hey, you must learn this, okay, just send to them. Subscribe to our YouTube. Okay, just help us boost the algorithm basically. Okay, just boost the algorithm. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, and follow us for more good stuff because I'm going to be pumping out more good, valuable content like this to help you all. Okay, just a reminder that if you're not yet in our Telegram channel, but you are Sec 3 or 4 Pure Bio student, then what on earth are you doing? Get in there so that you can access the PDF. For your reference, this entire document I will convert to PDF for you guys. Topic 1 to 6 of our CAQs are free to you. If you're in our Telegram channel, you can access. Okay, all these notes, topical notes, are free for all chapters. Again, the link is in our Telegram channel. And lastly, if you need personalized guidance for O-level Pure Bio, you want someone who has done all the study preparation for you, making the notes, making the CAQs, the flashcards, memory shortcuts, and maybe you have lots of doubts and concepts that you have forgotten, and you want there to be crash course clips where we have cut out from our past lessons so that you can get an instant revision of all those hard concepts. If you want all this study preparation done for you so that you can just take it and use it straight away. Okay, plus you want to have constant WhatsApp help throughout the week so that any of your doubts are answered. So if you want this kind of personalized guidance, then just check out our website, thatbiotutor.com. Hey guys, if that was helpful for you, then subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to join our O-level Pure Bio tuition classes, click the link below or go to thatbiotutor.com.